Well, hello and welcome to this week's Positive Recovery with Corinna, being made for www.sobertownpodcast.com and my YouTube channel, Positive Living with Sobriety and Disability. So I'm going to open my jar, have a little dig around and see what I take out. And it's quite interesting because I've been I haven't got much to offer at the moment. So we'll see what I draw to see if the universe is sending me a message. Or forgiveness. Okay, so today I'm going to be talking about forgiveness. And you know what? It's something that really is very, very important in our sobriety and our recovery. And one of the things I have to forgive myself for is not doing a podcast last week. And that's because I had so much going on in my own personal life. I had a lot of stuff to be dealing with. And then this week I was like, it's getting back into it, isn't it? And I have to forgive myself for not doing one last week, and it's fine. It is absolutely fine. But that's just a simple forgiveness. That's just forgiving myself for dragging my feet a little bit. But there's bigger things in life that we have to forgive ourselves for, and we have to forgive others for as well. But it's not that easy. Sometimes, very often we have to work through a lot of the emotions and the feelings, the anger, the hurt, the resentment, because it really is okay to feel all those things, because hey, that's what we feel. We have to remember our hula hoop and our area of control, that all we can do is control what is within our arm's reach, our arm span. But, because we can't control other people. We can't control how they act, what they do, what they say. And by the same token, we can't change what we've done either. We can't change what others have done. But what we can do is work through some of those emotions and control how we respond to things. Again, we can't change how we've responded in the past, but we can change how we respond now, and what we hold on to, that's within our area of control, because very often we hold on to the anger, the guilt, the regret, the resentment, and that just makes us mentally and physically ill. People can get angry to the bones or sick to the bones, we say, and people really do. It does affect us physically and mentally because we hold on to stuff, and that is our choice. If we want to hold on to stuff and be ill and full of resentment, then that's fine. But if we want to live a freer, happier life, then we have to learn to forgive and to let go, because at the end of the day, we can't change what has happened. We can't change what has gone. And by holding on to things, we just keep it going for longer. We don't let go. So the most important thing about forgiveness is learning to accept what's happened, accept our areas of control, to work through some of the emotions. And some of the ways to do that is to write it out, write letters. I love writing letters to people, not to send, but just write to let people know how it's made you feel, how their actions have made you feel. Podcasting is another way, to come on and tell your story. Come on to Sobertown and tell your story. Tell your story about your life, about your drinking or certain aspects of your life. Come and talk to us about it. We're always happy to listen to your story and have your story on the podcast. So you can either contact me or contact Drifter and let us know that you'd like to share your story, because that can be really helpful. I'm diversifying, but back with the letters, write it all down and then cut it up. Bury it, burn it, let it go on the wind, but just get all that emotion out, get the anger out, the hurt, the rejection, the resentment, get it out. And try and make amends with people if you can. Now, there are some people in our lives that that just are not going to hear our side. They're not going to hear any apologies from us, or if they've been particularly mean to us, that's just them. There are people that are toxic in our lives, and there's an old saying, I was just writing about this in my book actually, about the blood's thicker than water. Well, do you know what? Alcohol poisons our blood, and there are some relationships, some family relationships and ties that are poisonous. They are toxic, and they're not helpful to us. And sometimes we just have to sever those ties and let them go. It may be that you can come back at a later date to those relationships, but there are some people who are not going to hear us, who are not going to want to know. And I've done it, I'm sure many of us do it, that time after time we set ourselves up for rejection. We set ourselves up for hurt because we keep trying to make those amends, and we're just rejected and it's shoved back. And, if that keeps happening, it doesn't serve us. So from today, try and think of the things that no longer serve you and let them go. Because this is your journey. This is about your mental and physical health. This is about your recovery. This is about your sobriety. And those sorts of things, those pains, those hurts aren't going to help you with that. And another saying, isn't it, is about to forgive and forget and forget. And some people say, well, I can forgive, but I can't forget. But again, that is kind of our choice. But it's not also, because there's that part of our brain that keeps throwing things back at us. And memories will come back. They really will. But again, it is our choice whether we get involved in that memory or whether we just acknowledge it and then let it go. And yeah, I can make it sound so easy, but it is a lot harder to do that. But it's just about remembering our choice. It's about remembering that we can accept that those thoughts are going to be there, and we can accept that we have a choice. We have a choice to sit there and get embroiled in that memory and that thought and really let it sort of go round and round and make our life hell. Or we have a choice to just go, yeah, I see you, thanks for showing up, but I'm not going to give you time right now, and let it go. A little bit like the addict voice. Or you could treat it like the addict voice. Whatever works with you, the addict voice will probably work with those memories that come back that you don't want to be, hearing. You can tell them to F off if you want. You can laugh at them and say, yeah, here you are again, bye. Sometimes, and it depends how we treat it in the day we feel. Sometimes with my anxiety I might go, oh, hello, old friend. What you here to tell me today? Other times it would be, come on if you think you're hard enough. But what I really try to do is to just catch myself in any memory that isn't serving me, that isn't helping me to live my happy, sober life, and to deal with it in the way that I feel is good on that day, to let it go. And when we look at forgiveness, I think when we hold on to stuff, when we don't forgive ourselves, when we don't forgive other people, the only person we're punishing is ourselves. Because very often that other person isn't bothered. They're not worried. It's us. We're beating ourselves up. We're punishing ourselves. And there's enough people out there who want to punish us without us beating ourselves up with a big stick. But that's what we're good at doing, and that's what we're used to doing. But in sobriety and in this journey, in recovery, we are finding new ways to be. We're finding new helpful ways to be, to stop us wanting to have the drink and numb. And this is another way, is to let go of things that don't serve us. If we don't forgive, if we hold on to things, if we continue to hate, to feel guilty, to feel angry, it is only ourselves that we are hurting. And probably our close loved ones, because if we're getting angry with stuff and angry with the world, we're going to be grumpy and miserable around people as well. If you can have a conversation with people, if it does serve you both to have a conversation, try and clear the air, then do it. I'm not saying ignore the elephant in the room. I'm getting good in my sobriety of recognising the elephant in the room. I'm not that great with dealing with it all the time because we're all work in progress, but at least I can sort of see the elephant in the room now. And I can catch myself when I'm going down sort of spiralling thoughts, and I can stop myself. Sometimes I can take action. Other times it doesn't feel right. But one of the things that I had to really forgive myself for was being a drunk mum. Not being there for Jack from the age of 2. The ironic thing about this is where I'm writing my book, things are coming up and memories are coming up. And I always had, from the day he was born, I was that anxious of a mum that I thought he was going to die. I thought he was going to die when he was 2 years old. And it was that bad a seed that was sown that I even had a date that I thought he was going to die on, and I had to take the day off of work just in case he died on that day. Sounds batty, doesn't it? But this was part of anxiety and depression, and the fact that he was so precious to me, he was so wanted, that I couldn't stand the thought of losing him. And then when he survived the date, I thought, he's not going to live past teenage years. And it was just this anxiety that was fueled in me. So what I did, because I couldn't stand the thought or the risk of losing him, that's when I really started drinking heavily, was at the age of 2, because I couldn't bear the thought of losing him. And what I actually then did was I wasn't present for him, because I would drink every day. I'd still work, I'd still function, I'd still be there for him, but every night I would drink as soon as we got in. So, I wasn't fully present, and that got worse over the years. And so I wasn't there for him. I guess I was in some ways. I'd turn up, I'd take time off, I'd go to the school functions, I'd do the stuff, but I wasn't really there. I wasn't really feeling the joy and the happiness. And I felt so bad about that, that I did a podcast way back when last year, because I felt so guilty. And I felt so guilty about it for years. And actually, he told me that it was all in my mind, the guilt, that it hadn't had an impact on him. It hadn't affected him. And it possibly had. I still think that. But, it was good to clear the air. It really was. So you can have a little listen to that podcast. I think it's Corinna talks to her son, Jack. But that, I was able to forgive myself because we had a frank conversation, because I had been beating myself up about stuff that I didn't need to beat myself up about. So that's the other aspect of things. We always have our side of the story. We perceive things in our way. It is only us that ever sees a situation the way that we see it. Nobody else on earth will see it in the same way as we do. So sometimes we just have to clear the air and talk to each other about it. If that's not going to help, you've tried that and it doesn't help, then, write that letter. Not necessarily to send it. Sometimes you can write a letter to send, but I'd never recommend you send the first letter you write, write the letter, get all the feelings, get all the emotions out, and then send a much calmer one. Not accusing, not blaming, but it can be things like, when you do this, this is how it makes me feel. Yeah, don't accuse people of doing stuff. Just explain to them how it makes you feel. Because again, this is your story. We all have different stories. We all have different sides. So you could try and do that. And if none of that works, if talking doesn't work, if writing the letter doesn't work, we need to recognise the toxicity, and we just need to let things go. And let sleeping dogs lie, as they say. Don't bring stuff up. Just deal with your emotions. Deal with your anger. Deal with your resentment. Deal with your stuff. And don't expect other people to deal with them. Stay in your hula hoop and keep the control and the acceptance. Anyway, I hope that's helped for you this week to look at forgiveness. And just look today what no longer serves you and let it go. Take care for now, and I'll catch you again next week. And remember, not another drop, no matter what.